Greetings and aloha, friends. I am Doug Bowers, speaking to you today from the beautiful garden island of Kauai. First, let me say thank you very much for your time and attention. I'm very excited because I'm going to empower you today with the strategies and solutions that will provide tremendous benefits for you and your family. We have a lot to go over, so let's get started. Today, we're going to be discussing the VA's Improved Pension for Aid and Attendance Benefit. Let me first ask, who has ever heard of this program before today? Well, likely most, if not all of you, have never heard of this program. See, I regularly travel throughout the state of Hawaii, and 99% of those that I speak to have never heard of this program before today. So why is that? Well, there's more than one reason, and I can address that a little bit later, but I promise again, you will gain the knowledge today of exactly what this program is and what it is not, and how you can qualify for this benefit. So there's three basic qualifications for this pension. There's military, there's a medical, and then there's a financial means test. One thing I must make clear to you today is what this program is not. It is not a welfare program. This is an entitlement program for a very specific group of Americans. This entitlement was created for our wartime veterans and their surviving spouses. Now, this program was designed specifically to help pay for the cost of care and preserve the family assets for our wartime veteran community. Now, even though the VA has a financial means test, meaning they've come up with a formula that's based upon your income and your liquid assets. I must be clear about this, though. This does not mean the VA intends to withhold this pension benefit and really discriminate against the sacrifice of a veteran who may have accumulated more assets than his fellow soldier who may have not. Now, the VA's formula does have limitations that may restrict eligibility, yet the guidelines were designed to allow for anyone, regardless of the amount of wealth they have, to be able to make changes in their estate planning in order to qualify for this pension. So again, it was designed to pay for care and preserve their estate. This is a pension, not welfare. So of course, the VA and its employees are not financial professionals, yet you will learn it is clear the way the guidelines were written was for those that have arrived at a time in life when they will benefit from the assistance with some of their daily activities, and those that may have accumulated above average asset amounts. Now, it may be advantageous to seek professional advice to get your affairs in order and encourage simple estate planning to help preserve the estate for your loved ones. So yes, I am a financial services professional. My practice focuses on retirement income planning and estate planning. And as mentioned, the VA recognized that they are not financial professionals with the skills necessary to assist with the necessary planning for some of our veterans. So in today's capacity, I'm speaking to you to inform veterans, surviving spouses, and their family members about potential benefits for which they may be entitled to pay for care. Now, some of the families I meet will also benefit from my estate planning services in order to qualify for this VA pension. Okay, so first, let's clarify what the problem is and its cause. In my practice, we address issues in this matter. What is the problem or danger we face? What is the cause of the danger or problem? And what is the solution to the problem and how we can avoid this danger? So let's explore one of the most common problems retirees face today. It's the cost of care. Now, of course, cost varies widely based on a variety of factors, including geographic areas and the level of care needed. But you can see here the national average for assisted living is just over $38,000 a year. Well, here in Hawaii, it's over $45,000 a year. Now, the national average for nursing home is just over $67,000 a year. But here in Hawaii, we can call it a paradise premium, if you will. It's over $122,000 a year. So a significant difference in the cost of care here in the state of Hawaii. Okay, so a reality that demands that we make changes to address this issue is that people are simply living longer. We must plan now for 30 to 40 years of retirement. Now, interestingly, people that are age 80 and older make up the world's fastest growing age group. And actually, I did some research. The next nearest group is actually 5 times less. So folks that are aging 80 and over make up by far the world's fastest growing age group. Now, what's important is you cannot afford to make costly and avoidable mistakes that could cause interruptions in your retirement lifestyle. And when it comes to retirement, it's all about making sure that your money lasts as long as you do at the very minimum, because the stakes are just too high for inaction when it comes to financial matters. Now, the last point here that states 2 out of 3 people over age 65 will need long-term care at some point in their life. That's just what the statistics are telling us. So today we're going to be going over 4 different strategies. And again, I want to empower you with the strategies and solutions to address the problems that we all face. So depending on where you are viewing this presentation, you may have my handout to take notes and questions. But if you're at home, I encourage you to get a pen and paper so you can write down any questions and make notes as we go through my presentation. So first, the first strategy is we're going to talk about how to take advantage of little known and underutilized benefits. Now, there are 2 types of VA income. First, most people recognize there's the service-connected disability compensation. Of course, this is a compensation that is designed for folks that may have had a disability caused from their service. And they assign a percentage, and that percentage dictates the amount of compensation that they're going to receive. Today, we're going to be focusing on the non-service connected pension. So again, what is the aid and attendance benefit? I have a news clip here that Brian Williams did back in 2007. Brian recognized that this program was really being underutilized, and a lot of folks that could be qualifying for this program simply didn't know about it and therefore couldn't receive these benefits. So I'm going to show a quick, about a 5-minute clip of Brian's news story that talks some more specifics about this program.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams.
When NBC Nightly News continues this Friday night after a break, NBC News In Depth. We continue our special series taking care of your parents trading places. How many Americans are eligible for financial help for caring for the elderly but don't know about it? Tonight, a little-known program for American families, and later, what makes this year's Academy Awards any different? We're back with NBC News In Depth tonight, continuing now our special series called Trading Places on taking care of aging parents. All this week, we've been sharing your stories. Tonight, a report on a program that is run by the feds, the Department of Veterans Affairs. This story came to us from a viewer email. Fred Harrop of Florida wrote, veterans, their spouses, and widows may be eligible for VA benefits to help with assisted living or nursing home costs. These programs have been a godsend to countless individuals. We asked NBC's Ann Thompson to do some checking on this little known about veterans benefit that it turns out few people who could benefit from are really aware of.
Sunshine, you make me happy.
At 83, Berdine Goldsmith can still harmonize.
How much I love.
To look at her, you wouldn't know she has Alzheimer's, but she can't live on her own.
What do you have for birthday?
A year ago, her daughter Betty moved Berdine into this assisted living facility in Dallas and got an unexpected assist from the government.
When you find out that there's a veterans benefit to help your mom,
Right.
that's got to seem, it's thrilling. It's thrilling. It's just a real blessing.
The convoy puts to sea on the...
Berdine's husband Hubbard served in World War II, a Navy medic in the invasion of Sicily. Because of that service, today Berdine gets about $900 a month, a quarter of her care. The other $3,000 comes out of Betty's and husband Ted's savings each month.
The financial burden is stressful enough, but then you have the emotional stress on top of that.
What's the next sign after that?
It's called the Aid and Attendance Benefit for at-home assisted living or nursing home care. Facility Director Michael Halliburton says it never fails to surprise families.
Well, it's shock and awe. Their eyes light up, their jaws drop. I've had people cry.
But the program is little known. Today, just 143,000 veterans and surviving spouses receive the benefit. The government says perhaps hundreds of thousands more could be eligible.
We know that about 36% of veterans either didn't know about the program or thought they weren't entitled.
Eligibility is based on need, but you don't have to be impoverished. The formula includes your income minus medical expenses and your net worth, excluding your house and car. The benefit is available to veterans who served during wartime and their spouses if they can't live on their own. A benefit that is now one more part of Betty's father's legacy.
And I think he'd be very proud of the fact that his service was being honored.
Hubbard Goldsmith helped his country then.
That's what
his country helps his wife now. Ann Thompson, NBC News, Dallas.
We'd like to hear more stories like this. We'd like to hear about your experiences of taking care of your aging parents. To send us yours, go to our website. That's nightly.msnbc.com.
Okay, so there was some figures here that were mentioned. Does anybody remember what the figure was for how many were receiving the benefit at that time? 143,000 was the figure. Now, of course, that was back in 2007. Now, today, there's a little over 200,000. But conservative estimates have stated that there's over 2 million that could qualify for this benefit. So it's really a big difference in the amount of folks that are receiving it. Now, part of the reason is the funding and the education that the VA is receiving. Now, of course, Congress funds the VA. Now, the vast majority of their funds go towards the service-connected disability, and a smaller but very significant amount goes to fund the non-service-connected pension. So the reality is that most folks at the VA are trained and are very familiar with the service-connected disability and not so much the non-service-connected pension. So one question a lot of folks ask me is, how long has this program been around? Now, this addition to the aid and attendance benefit was actually added in 1979. So we can see that over 30 years have gone by, and the VA has made this program available to, as we'll see, only 5% of eligible vets. It's not a good track record. And some of the quotes that they say here is that there's a third of seniors that may eventually be eligible for this little-known benefit. The VA knows that veterans and their widows are missing out, and the VA studies show that they're just completely unaware that the program exists. And only 1 in 7 widows who could get the benefit actually receive the monthly checks. And it says here that only 5% of potentially eligible veterans actually get the pension. So again, it's not a good track record for over 30 years. Now, honestly, folks, you can choose to go down to the local VA office and say, you know, I heard about this aid and attendance program, and I'd like to qualify for this benefit. Well, the VA will be glad to hand you the application and then forward the information to the correct department. Anything more than that may not serve your interest. Now, what I mean is the stories I've heard from folks over the years that repeat to me things that they may have been told about this program is really all over the place, but mostly wrong. Now, the Title 38 is where the guides for this program are located, and I honestly don't blame the local VSO for not really knowing much or anything about this program, because the book's over 2,800 pages, and we talked again about how most of those folks are very familiar with the disability and not the pension. So let me ask you, if you needed to work with a government agency, how would you go about it? Let's take, for example, we have to file our taxes every single year. And of course, you would never just gather up all your receipts and your income statements and bring them to the IRS and say, here's my stuff, I want to file my taxes. No, you're going to seek the guidance of a CPA or a tax attorney to make sure you take advantage of all the benefits that are entitled to you, right? Makes sense. So again, we are specialized professionals. Let's talk about the good stuff. These are the 2012 adjusted income amounts, okay? So a surviving spouse of a veteran can qualify for as much as $13,138. It's just under $1,100 per month. Now, a single veteran can qualify for $20,447. It's just about $1,700 per month. Now, a married veteran, $24,239 is just over $2,000 per month. Now, two married veterans can qualify for $32,102. It's just about $2,700 per month. And that's tax-free, folks. Absolutely tax-free income. So do you really appreciate the significance of what these amounts can provide for you? Let me illustrate this by taking a look at the smallest category, right? The widow or surviving spouse. Now, how much savings would it take to generate over $13,000 in income after taxes? Well, what are CDs paying right now? Dismal, right? Maybe about 1%. Well, if you were earning 1%, it would take $1.8 million to generate $18,000 in taxable income. Now, in an approximate 25% tax bracket, that would leave you a little over $13,000 of income. Now, it would take twice that amount, $3.6 million, to generate the equivalent income for a married veteran. So this is a very significant amount of money that's available. Okay, so I put this up here for the periods of war. Now, World War II, I understand the bullets stopped flying in October of 45, but there was still occupation all the way through 1946. So if you went in, January 46 and got out at the end of 46, you can still qualify, even though most of the conflict was over. Now, there's three different qualifications, as I mentioned. The first one is the military. Now, the basic qualifications for the military guidelines are you have to have at least 90 days of active duty. You must have served at least one of those days during a declared state of war. Now, one common question is the veteran did not have to see combat or serve overseas. Now, it's preferred that they have an honorable discharge, but technically anything other than a dishonorable is acceptable, and you must have a need for regular assistance of another person to perform daily activities. Now, the people that I meet generally fall into three different categories. The first one is those who don't qualify and can't do anything about it. For example, you don't yet need assistance of another person. Yet the reality is at some point this may change, so it's still very beneficial to learn exactly what it will take to qualify in the future. Now, the second category is those who qualify right off the bat with no adjustments needed, and they just need to go through the application process. Now, the third group is those who currently do not qualify but could become qualified by taking certain steps that are allowed under the Title 38 rules and regulations. So how do you know where you stand, and how do you get what you're entitled to? I've assembled a team that's here to help you. Scott Sexton and Associates is my VA accredited attorney, as well as his accredited staff members. Now, what he can do for you and what you can expect is under the direction of our VA accredited attorney, he will provide you with a written opinion letter evaluating your potential eligibility for these benefits. And there's no charge to you for this service. Once you're in a position to qualify, under the direction of the VA accredited attorney, he will assist you with the VA application. And again, there is no charge for this assistance. If you don't qualify but could become qualified with professional assistance, there may be some cost associated with the various professional services needed, and you make the decision whether or not it's worth it to proceed. So then if you are a veteran or a widow of a veteran, get an evaluation. It's free. The benefit is well worth it, and there's nothing to lose by finding out if you qualify. So I really want you to understand how this program can benefit you in such a big way. So this is a case study of a Korean War Navy veteran. He's 78 years old. He's got severe arthritis, and he really can't stand for long periods. Now, his income from Social Security and retirement totals $1,450 per month. He currently has $190 a month in out-of-pocket medical expenses, and he has $47,000 in the bank. So after moving into an independent living facility, we can see that his expenses have gone up quite a bit. His rent is $2,400 a month. That makes his total expenses $2,790 per month. Now, of course, he's going to run a monthly deficit of over $1,300 per month and over $16,000 per year. And you can see that his $47,000 of savings is depleted in just 2 years. Well, how's it look once we get his aid and attendance benefit? And as mentioned before, a single veteran can qualify for $1,703 per month. So let's take a look at what this gentleman was able to accomplish qualifying for the aid and attendance benefit. We can see that his income went up to $3,094, and instead of running a deficit, he actually has a monthly increase, a surplus of over $360 per month and over $4,300 per year. And if he were to just add that to his savings, in a 10-year period, we're talking a difference of $245,000. Big time difference here, folks. Let's take a look at another case study. Now, this gentleman currently has more assets than the VA guides will allow and still qualify for this program. Yet, under the direction of the VA attorney, this family was able to make adjustments to their estate planning in order to qualify for this benefit. So we can see that this Army veteran, he's 80, he had a stroke, and he has several daily activities that he needs assistance with. He has $8,200 a month in income, $500,000 in liquid assets, and $150,000 of 401k that he's taking the required minimum distributions. Okay, so let's take a look at his new reality. His expenses are medical expenses, $700 a month. The assisted living facility for him and his wife is $9,500 per month, and he has $2,000 a month in other monthly costs. So his total expenses are over $12,000 per month. He's running a monthly deficit of $4,000 and a yearly deficit of $48,000. So we can see that in a 10-year period, his $500,000 is nearly depleted. How's it look once we get him qualified for the aid and attendance benefit? Now, as a married veteran, $2,020 is available to him. It's going to bring his income to $10,220. Now, he's still running a deficit. He's got a $1,980 a month deficit and a $23,760 per year. And if we were to just take a look at the same snapshot for 10 years, we're looking at a $240,000 difference. Very significant. Well, of course, the gentleman owned a home, and he thought, you know what, I'll just rent it out and make up the difference. So we saw that his $1 million home could rent for $3,800 per month. Now, of course, after taxes, insurance, maintenance, and management fees, he's going to end up with about $3,200 per month, or $38,400 per year. Now, based upon his $1 million asset, that, of course, is a 3.84% net cash return. But the important thing is it makes up his difference. He's no longer in the red, and he actually has over $1,200 a month in spending money. So, you know, we started talking about other potential dangers of this scenario. Now, first, he mentioned to me that he's never been a landlord and really wasn't excited about this prospect. He also recognized there's always a chance of his income being interrupted by vacancies. We also then discussed taxes, and I reminded him that currently he could take advantage of the tax exemption of a total of $500,000 of his equity since he's lived in the home for 2 of the last 5 years. I also reminded him that the capital gains tax rate of 15% is currently scheduled to increase to 20% as of January 1st, 2013 as part of the expiring Bush tax cuts. Now, another thing that we discussed was that his $1 million asset, his house, is not in liquid form, right? This money is basically trapped in the form of equity, and he would be unable to access that quickly in a case of emergency. And it's also not protected from further loss due to market conditions. Now, he also mentioned that this $1 million house was, worth several $100,000 more just a few short years ago. So, he was uncomfortable with the fact that he's not having a protected asset. Now, this discussion of these dangers, of course, disturbed him, and he asked if I could suggest a better option. So we looked at the option of selling the home. Now, of course, he's going to have capital gains and commissions of $150,000. That's going to leave him with $850,000. Now, I showed him an option where he could purchase a lifetime income contract. Now, something I want to distinguish is this is not annuitization. Annuitization is simply where you trade your premium for a guaranteed lifetime income stream. Now, in annuitization, you lose choice and control over your initial premium. You have no liquidity, and this, of course, was not suitable for him, and frankly, it's not suitable for most folks. So I showed him an option where he actually purchases a lifetime income contract with liquidity. He gets to maintain that choice and control and liquidity of the $600,000. So what do? Now, I showed him an option where he takes just $600,000 of his $850, purchases the lifetime income contract that's guaranteed to pay him out 7%. That equals $3,500 a month for the rest of his and his wife's life. Okay, now an additional benefit is he gets to take the other $250,000, puts that in the bank to add to his liquidity fund. That brings his total income to $13,720 and increases his spending money to over $1,500 per month. So he really liked this option. And in summary, what we were able to do for him is, again, we showed him an option to put $750,000 of cash in the bank. He has over $1,500 in surplus cash flow. Now, he also has the $150,000 401k, and he asked me, Doug, I really don't need this money. After the changes that we're able to accomplish, I'd really like to just see this go to my son. If there's a way I could do that, I really think he would benefit more. He hasn't been able to save enough for retirement, and a lot of his equity in his home has evaporated from current market conditions as well. So I had mentioned to him that there's several different strategies where we could take a qualified plan like a 401k and transfer that where he can have his heirs receive this completely tax-free. So he really wanted to see what this would look like. Now, after discussing his son's situation a little further, we found what would be suitable for him would be to take the $150,000 401k and just cash it out. Now, approximate 30% tax bracket, there's going to be a $45,000 tax liability. That's going to leave him with $105,000. So what this gentleman did was he took $100,000 and he purchased a total living care policy for his 50-year-old son. Now, what did we accomplish for this $100,000? What we're able to do is purchase a guaranteed life insurance policy that's going to pay out $300,000 tax-free to his beneficiaries at his death. Now, another benefit with this total living care policy is that if he ever needed long-term care at any time in his life, he could accelerate that death benefit, convert it into long-term care, and if he were to take the maximum benefit that's available to him, it would last him 48 months or 4 years. So we can see that this $45,000 of taxes that he initially paid was actually repaid over 6.5 times through either the guaranteed death benefit or that long-term care of $300,000. So again, folks, he was very, very happy with this option, and this created the best gift possible for his son and his family. And this is just one of the several strategies that I can educate you folks on how to free a qualified plan in order to maximize the benefits. Now, you can probably tell I'm very passionate about helping families achieve a better future, and I would consider it a privilege to be able to show you ways to achieve this for you and your family. Okay, so please, if you have my form, check box number 1 that you'd like to learn more about how to qualify for this improved pension for aid in attendance. Okay, strategy number 2 is maximize the value in existing life insurance. Now, I put this up here because I want to have you think about, do you have the new kind of insurance or the old kind of insurance? Now, the reason why I asked that is because really in direct response to the recent financial meltdown in 2008, the insurance industry has created a number of innovative products that were really set to address the concerns of today's retirees. So we've just discussed how valuable certain VA benefits could be in paying for care and preserving your assets. There may be better options available that you may not have considered, and it's important to maximize the value of all the insurance policies you have. So let's examine 2 different potential resources: long-term care policies and existing life insurance policies. Now, do you have a long-term care policy? If so, it's important that you understand how your policy works and when it can be triggered to assist in paying for needed care. Now, some policies will pay for assisted living or even at-home care costs, and it may not be just a policy for nursing care costs. There may also be a way to get some help from the policy you've been paying for all these years, so please have a professional review of your current long-term care policies. Now, I put up this case study because recently I had a gal that I was working with who was concerned about long-term care expenses because her parents just moved into an assisted living, and she saw firsthand the expense associated with that. So she's 59 years old and she's in good health, and she told me she could afford $250 a month. Now, I showed her an option from a very, very good company that provided immediate coverage of $200 a day for 2 years. It also had a 5% inflation increase benefit. Now, the reality is at 59 in good health, it could be a number of years before she needs care. So as an example, 20 years later at age 79, let's just say she needed to receive some care. Now, because of the 5% inflation increase, that $200 daily limit is increased to $505 or over $15,000 per month. Now, if she were to need that full benefit of over $15,000 per month, the 20 years of premium, that $250 a month for 20 years would have been repaid in 112 days. So we can see here that we're turning pennies into dollars. Okay, so life insurance. Now, some good life insurance policies actually have what's called living benefits. That means that they could pay out money for care under certain circumstances. Now, additionally, many policies will allow you to withdraw money tax-free to pay for emergency-type situations. Now, do you know if your policy allows this? Or what about the fact that some policies are convertible? This means that you can convert a term policy, for example, into a more permanent solution without worrying about a medical exam. Could this provide additional opportunities for you to leave a legacy? Another important consideration is, will the premium you're paying continue to keep your policy in force? Now, the last thing your family would want to realize is that at your death, expecting to get a life insurance payout, to find out that actually the premium was not being kept up to date and the policy actually lapsed. So it's important to understand that if your policy is going to lapse and how you can protect yourself from that possibility. So please check box number 2 if you'd like to learn about how to maximize the value in your existing life insurance policies. Okay, so our third strategy. Now, we've already discussed that 2 out of 3 people age 65 and older will need long-term care at some point in their life. However, 100% of us at some point will pass away and leave final expenses. Now, too many times seniors will end up spending all their money on their care, including funds set aside to pay for their funeral. Now, what most folks don't want is that Medicaid may require them to do so. That can leave the family with no funds left to cover final expenses, creating a financial burden for their heirs. And for most folks, a financial burden is the last thing they want to leave for their children. So a little known solution to this problem is a funeral trust. Now, usually when people think of a trust, they think big expense, right? Well, let's get that notion out of the way right now. We have funeral trusts available to you at no charge. Now, what can this do for you? Some smaller life policies can be protected from Medicaid spend down by transferring the cash values to a funeral trust. Now, Section 1035 of the IRS code could allow you to do this exchange tax-free. Now, what does this mean? You might be able to create a funeral trust plan at no out-of-pocket expense. So let's take a look at how these tools compare to some others that are available. Now, I'm showing this slide that compares an annuity, a savings account, a CD, and life insurance. And you can see that the funeral trust is the only option that allows you to enjoy federal income tax-free death benefits, guaranteed principal, protected from creditors, as well as excluded from Medicaid spend down requirements. Okay, so how does the funeral trust actually work? First, we determine the amount of money you will need to provide for the last expenses and the funeral that you want to have. We transfer the cash value of the current policies or other funds in order to create a single payment life insurance policy for the amount that you've determined. Now, that policy will be assigned to an irrevocable life insurance trust. Now, the policy amount increases with interest until the time of need. The benefit is going to be paid out tax-free, and the benefit passes free from probate costs and delays. It's paid out very quickly, directly to the funeral provider to cover those immediate expenses, and any excess funds are then dispersed to your estate or a named beneficiary that's based on your wishes, okay? The alternative for some people is to keep paying on their current life policies until Medicaid makes them cash it in to pay for care. So if Medicaid rules allow for it and the IRS code allows for it, why would someone who may be in that situation not want to consider a funeral trust? So please check box number 3 to evaluate whether or not what you currently have is the best tool to meet your final expense need, or if a funeral trust might be more beneficial. Okay, so our fourth strategy is how to protect your money and make sure it grows. Now, some innovative products can protect your retirement nest egg from principal loss, guarantee you a lifetime income, and effectively pass what is remaining to the appropriate beneficiaries. Now, it's important to understand there are 3 main phases of retirement planning. There's the accumulation, the distribution, and transfer phases. Now, many folks today have not received the correct advice from their accumulation-focused advisors. And it's vitally important that you properly structure your portfolio from the accumulation phase to suitably address the distribution and transfer phases. This requires you work with someone who will show you how to maximize your retirement income while protecting your principal and address that future transfers to heirs is done efficiently with maximum benefits. I can help you gain the peace of mind knowing you have minimized your risk and set up a predictable plan to meet your retirement lifestyle. So as a retirement and estate planner, I speak with people about their retirement plans, and inevitably the conversation ends with something like, hopefully things work out. Well, sure, I get it. I'm hopeful and optimistic too, but hope is not a plan. I like it when things are predictable, and when it comes to retirement planning, let's be clear about what is most important. You must have income. You can't sustain life without it. You can't live life free from anxiety unless you have it. And without it, the choices you have until the day you die are limited. Retirees are finding out that Wall Street's advice is not working, and many are finding themselves running out of money at a time in life when they can't go back to work. It's all about guaranteed income for life. Now, predictability is so important. Now, I'm going to ask everyone to participate in a game. Okay, this will be fun. So please think of a number right now between 1 and 10, any number you like. Okay, you got a number? All right, now I want you to double that number. Add 8, divide it in half. Now subtract your original number. Okay, does everybody have a final number in their head? Okay, good. So let's take that final number, and I want you to think of the corresponding letter of the alphabet. So if your final number is 1, it's A. If it's 2, it's B. 3, C, and so forth. So think of the letter that corresponds to your final number, and I want you to think of a country that begins with that letter. So any country in the world that begins with the letter that corresponds with your final number. Does everybody have a country? Okay, I want you to think of the last letter of that country and take that letter and think of a zoo animal that begins with that letter. Okay, so the last letter of your country, think of a zoo animal that begins with that letter. Everybody got a zoo animal? Okay, so take the last letter of that zoo animal, and I want you to think of a piece of fruit that begins with the last letter of that zoo animal. Okay, any fruit you want. Has everybody got a piece of fruit? Okay, so everybody should have a country, a zoo animal, and a piece of fruit in their mind. How many are thinking Denmark, kangaroo, orange? Well, likely most of you. In fact, this is much more effective in a live setting, but regardless of the size of group that I share this with, about 80% of the folks that I share this exercise with will think of Denmark, kangaroo, orange. Some of them will think of Denmark, koala, apple, and if you didn't think of either of those two, you did your math wrong. But the point is, I was able to predict your answer, and you know that creates a lot of confidence when you're able to predict the outcome, right? Here's some sage advice from pro. I know everybody knows who Warren Buffett is. His number 1 rule, never lose money. Number 2 rule, never forget rule number 1. Now, I want to address a common myth that many people have. Now, the average loss of a 401k plan in 2008 was 31%. Now, analysts on the news say if you would have stuck it out, you would have gained 38%. And that, you know, of course, makes people think, well, gosh, you know, maybe that would have been better. But the reality here is when you lose, you always have to make up a greater percentage than you lost just to be whole again. Now, I put up an example of $100,000. Now, if you lost 25%, your $75,000 would have to realize a gain of 33%, right? What's 33% of 75? That's 25,000 in order for you to get equal to your $100,000. Now, what if you lost 33% and it went down to 66,000? You would have to realize a 50% gain in order to equal your $100,000. Now, what if you lost half of your money? I know some folks in 2008 that suffered a 50% loss. They would have to gain 100% in order to equal their $100,000 that they originally had. So, you know, you may have heard the expression, don't worry, it'll come back. You're in it for the long haul. But my question is, in whose lifetime, and do you have time to lose? Remember, you cannot have guaranteed income, nor can you have a guaranteed legacy to your heirs if your principal is at risk. So don't lose. Now, my practice specializes in helping folks ensure and guarantee both their income and their principal. Now, I put these headlines up here to discuss some serious dangers and realities that we all face. Now, this first one, the Wall Street machine is broken. I was shocked recently to learn that 86% of trade volume on all the major exchanges are done by algorithms or computer software. So what does that mean? I mean, the reality is the days of traditional valuations are a thing of the past, because today profits are taken in thousands of fractions from daily price fluctuations. And because of this, big traders who are leveraging and maximizing trades will always put the system at risk. This type of trading has created a danger of what is being termed as flash crashes. Now, just recently, a single investment firm, Knight Capital, lost over $400 million in less than 45 minutes. I mean, that's incredible. Now, the second headline, the fiscal cliff, market sting may come sooner. The fiscal cliff is a major issue and is a huge immediate danger facing the markets. It's really a perfect storm of tax, spending, and debt deadlines at the end of 2012. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but in this election year, politics have become the biggest threat to the markets. Now, the third headline, 3 ugly economic predictions no one wants to hear: money laundering, bank breakups, and corporate dividend cuts. Now, I'm not even going to discuss the European debt crisis or the China slowdown or other global implications and the effects of these issues, or how many scandals just over the past year. I mean, remember MF Global and Peregrine Ponzi schemes that robbed hundreds of millions of dollars of investor funds? What about the LIBOR scandal? How about Citi losing $7 billion from their derivative trades? You know, the list goes on. Now, the fourth headline, look out below, volatility hits 401k plans. There's just too much uncertainty for investors. Now, many of you may have heard that Congress now requires qualified plan providers to disclose all their fees after over 30 years of non-disclosure, and the reality of the impact of these fees is astounding. This article goes into how these fees may cut 30% from the retirement balance. Now, this graph illustrates this reality. Now, I have available a free 18-page report that's titled The Retirement Savings Drain, the Hidden and Excessive Costs of 401ks. Now, the data collected in this report should make you realize how much of a bad investment these plans are, and I can show you a much better way to plan for retirement. Now, this headline has extremely important implications. Now, as a brief history, until 1974, the defined benefit pension was the primary retirement system here in the U.S. Now, this created confidence for retirees because they knew exactly how much income they would receive. All of that has changed. In the early 70s, the country was in a recession and Wall Street was desperate for new capital. So in 1974, Congress passed the ERISA, and as a result, the baby boomers have the majority of their wealth in these type of plans. And this boomer population holds the majority of wealth in the US. So over the past 30 years, the massive population of boomers, together with fairly steady times in the US politically and financially, have created enormous demand for stocks and mutual funds. This is the new reality we all have to face because, folks, the baby boomers have just started to retire, and the majority of them will reach age 65 from 2012 to 2016 on the bell curve. So as they retire, by law, they are required to withdraw approximately 6% each year. These are, of course, required minimum distributions. Now, what does this mean? This means the forced sale of stock holdings. This is the largest and richest group in the country that's pulling money out at the same time. Now, younger generations, otherwise known as ninjas for no income, no assets, no jobs, the reality is they're unable to purchase the amount of stocks being sold. So what does that mean? The value is going to drop. Well, this is going to compound when retirees see their portfolios dropping because they will pull out money even faster. This is a recent article. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, I read this article, and I put this up here because some very important statements here that I want to point out. Now, this first line says, the world's top mutual fund managers say the U.S. stock rally is about to come to an end. More than half, or 58% of the 253 fund managers surveyed by the Bank of America say that stocks are the most overvalued investments in the world. Now, what keeps fund managers up at night is the potential inaction by Congress on the issue of the so-called fiscal cliff. And investors now view the U.S. fiscal cliff as a greater threat than the Eurozone, and the upcoming election is putting these fears into sharper focus. Now, we just discussed some major issues and the dangers that are facing all of us. And I'm sharing all of this with you today because it's simply reality, and everyone has two choices. You can ignore this reality like many will do who have not gained this perspective, or you can see the situation for what it is, take action to protect your future and the future of your family. Now, retirees should approach their retirement planning using this rule. I learned this at the beginning of my career over 10 years ago. It's called the rule of 100, and it's simple. You take 100, you minus out your current age. Whatever is left should be the percentage of risk of your total portfolio. So an example is if you're 75 years old, that means that only 25% of your portfolio should have any risk at all. 75% of your principal should be protected. Now, I work with retirees and those that are soon to retire. I help assist in income and estate planning, long-term care, and life insurance to protect families from life's realities. I also can offer recommendations for maintaining a desired lifestyle in and through retirement. And I also help you identify opportunities to accomplish your family's objectives and reveal beneficial strategies previously not considered. I also have available to you a tutorial that I recorded recently this summer on the best CD alternatives and a bond replacement strategy. This is an excellent strategy. I know a lot of retirees have weighted their portfolios more towards bonds, and rightfully so, because of course they're safer investments, but there's some factors and dangers that you must consider with bond portfolios, and I can provide you with either a DVD or a link to your computer to watch a tutorial that'll show you what is the best CD alternative in bond replacement. Now, I can also share with you some additional strategies on how to transfer an IRA to your heirs completely tax-free. I can help you see if your life policy is able to be converted to a higher death benefit with no future premiums or even reduced premiums. I can show you how to protect future generations from the increased cost of care and really help leave a lasting legacy for your loved ones. So please check box number 4 if you'd like to request a personalized report to ensure that your money works for you. So when was the last time someone reviewed your insurance policies, your annuities, and your asset allocation? Are you protected against the market volatility? Do you have enough guaranteed income for life? And are your accounts properly allocated for maximum efficiency during your distribution and transfer phases? So again, some resources that I have available for you is the CD Alternative and Bond Replacement DVD, the 18-page 401k hidden costs. I also didn't mention yet, but I have a free 16-page From the Heart journal. This is really a record-keeping journal, so you can keep track of all your important documents. Now, we've covered 4 strategies to help pay for care and preserve your estate. Now, they really fall into 2 different categories: how to obtain all the benefits that are available to you, and how to proactively manage your income and your assets. So folks, we just went over a lot of information, and I'm sure you recognize the benefits that can be created from this, but I know we have not had the chance to meet yet, and you may understandably have reservations, so please don't take my word for it. This is a voicemail I received from a gal I met in Maui, and this really shows why I enjoy so much being involved in this type of work.
And you helped me file a claim with the government of, the Department of Veteran Affairs, and it was just awarded. And I wanted to thank you very, very much for coming by and mentioning. I know you didn't make any money on me, and I'm sorry about that, but I really am so thrilled to receive $1,094 a month, and that'll let me stay here and enjoy life, and all stress has been removed. Anyway, thank you ever so much, Doug. Bye.
This is a couple that I met in Honolulu, and they were kind enough to record this testimonial for you.
Okay, so this is Al Anderson. I would like to say to other people that are interested in the VA program that they should work with. He did a wonderful job for my wife and myself, and I can't say enough good things about him and what he's done, because it has given us a new life.
This is Robert and Esther Anderson. They recorded a great testimonial and had some very nice comments, but unfortunately the audio was poor. But Esther insisted I share their number if anyone would like to speak with them regarding the experience they had with working with me. So folks, I want to thank you again for your attention. My contact information is below. VeteranAidHawaii.com is my website with some additional information on the aid and attendance benefit. But please, folks, reach out, give me a call. My direct cell number is listed there, my email. Please, let's get together and discuss how we can create a plan to address all of your concerns. Thank you so much, and aloha.